Good evening, greetings, everyone, wherever time zone you're joining us from. Welcome to the Big Sky, where we get to review the unlimited possibilities of aviation. And the host is Isaac Yami, and so excited to be here every single time. And I'll call upon my co-host in a sec, but I just want to hope all of you are doing great. You're having a pleasant week as we started, and if you're just joining us, you're watching the Big Sky, and please do share the stream. If you haven't shared, like, subscribe, do all of those things. Share with your friends, and let us be educated, knowledgeable, and enjoy the Big Sky. So I'm going to call upon my co-host as usual. I always co-host with someone, and it's none other than Mr. Yale Riaz.
Hi,
Hi,
how
how are
are
you
you?
doing?
I'm good.
I'm great. I'm good. Greet the viewers. And right now we're literally being watched by 10 people at this very particular point. Thank you so much. I think this is like the highest. I think it's because of the guest. So I just want to shout out on our guest. He's backstage right now. But I'm thinking, wow, this is dope. This is amazing. So greet the viewers and all of those things.
Hi guys, whoever's watching us, whoever will watch us later on, thank you for joining us today. It's awesome to have you guys here. You know me and you know Isaac. We're here every week with someone new, and this week we have someone really interesting, and I'll let Isaac bring him out.
Awesome. Do you want to give us a short bio of him before he comes? Just to water the appetite of our viewers.
Okay, so today we have someone from the South Africa side actually. He's a commercial pilot, and he's a commercial pilot from Zimbabwe. And a couple of people who are in Africa know him. So let's see, let's hear from his side who he is. It's going to be interesting today.
Yeah, awesome. So he's Captain Eleazar Mubanda. Mubanda, I think I got it correctly. And let's get a drum roll before we get him on.
Okay.
Drum roll, please. And there we have him, Captain.
Quite the hype you're building there, Isaac. Loving the energy. Good evening, guys. Happy to be here. Eleazar Mabunda, signing in. How you guys doing?
Did I get the last name correctly? It's Mabunda.
Mabunda, yes, sir.
Mabunda. Awesome. Good evening. It's such a pleasure. Right now, this is the highest we have right now. Like I don't know. I don't know. It's because you're a great man or whatsoever. Because right now we have 14 people tuned in right now. I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I am
thanks
excited
for
to be honest.
triple.
Like I'm really excited, and I hope I won't disappoint because these are so many eyes.
Well,
Awesome.
a big shout out to the people for showing up. We really appreciate having them here.
Yeah, awesome. Do you want to just say a few things shortly about yourself before we
Okay.
jumped right into today's animated discussion? I don't want to say interview because you already have a job, so this is not an interview, but basically it's a sharing.
Okay.
So
Yeah, all right, thank you. So, hi everyone. My name is Eleazar Mabunda, and I'm a 23-year-old commercial pilot from Zimbabwe. I was born and bred from Mash West province here in Zimbabwe, and yeah, I think that's a bit. That's all I have on myself. I'll leave the rest to
yeah, awesome. No, you did great actually. That's so
you.
that's so
Okay.
brief as expected. So
hmm
so we're just gonna dive right into your life. Like
Okay.
let's talk about your qualifications, man. Like let's talk about the accolades. Like what do we have right now? Like man, first of all, you're 23 years old. I envy you. I'm couple of years older than that, but I'm trying to remember what I was doing at your age. I was also doing some great things, but I envy you right now because that's quite a young age, and for things that you have accomplished. So take
Thank
us
you.
through your qualifications. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Eliezer is a South African Civil Aviation Authority commercial pilot license holder with an instrument rating. And you mentioned accolades earlier on. To be honest, They were just showered on me. I have no reason why, but
He's humble.
I
He's
have to,
humble.
I have received the Keep Flying Scholarship from Women in Aviation International 2013. And then in 2019, I was given the Commercial Pilot of the Year award by Al Gore Flying
Oh,
Club.
wow.
Uh, yeah, we're still building up on that. We skipped 2020. I'm sure most of us did, but a lot is waiting for us in 2021.
Wow, awesome.
Okay.
Michelle.
Hi, Els. How are you? I couldn't even get a word in with Isaac speaking, and I'm the co-host here. It's awesome to have you here. I just want to welcome you to us. Thank you for coming and talking to us. It's
Thank
great.
you.
And as you know, I just want to say that, Flight Wings Aviation, we're trying to inspire young people. And you being young yourself, it's awesome that you're here. And thank you for coming and sharing your experience and about your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having
So, so I would want to know about where you're working and why did you decide to work there? Like, why did you decide to work at this specific place?
All right. Thank you very much. Well, I'm currently working for a company called Three Bars Express, and this happens to be a startup that I actually was instrumental in setting up. And Three Bars Express is basically a virtual pilot training school, in a nutshell, where we are equipping the next generation of pilots to um, take on the flying dream. You realize that with the pandemic, which came in last year, a lot of people weren't able to conduct classes as per normal. Okay, there was disruption to
Of course.
classes, and we had to come up with a solution on how to deal with this. This is where we come in as Three Bars Express, and we wrote the initiative to do one-on-one tutorial virtually online, like we're doing right now, which minimizes the risk of COVID, whilst at the same time delivering the same brilliance that we would expect to find in a normal classroom setting. Now, why did I choose this? I'd say it was a combination of passion and circumstance. You find that as the world was shutting out on us, we then opened up to the world, and we set up and we said, let us go and deliver the same product to each and every individual that we can reach who is out there, so that we do not allow any dream to be killed in the process. That's the
Wow.
nutshell.
Are you trying to inspire me to become a pilot as well? I think he's stuck there. There's
That's awesome.
some technical issue with him.
Okay. Whilst we wait for his internet to be stable,
Oh, he's here.
are you back?
You're
I don't
back,
know. Can you
right?
guys see me?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, we're
yes.
good. We're good. We're good.
I was
All
saying,
right.
are you trying to inspire me to become a pilot?
If we can persuade you, the more the merrier, right?
Nice, nice. I like the energy.
I'm like, how are you not inspired already? Because I'm like, Michael, come on, come
No, some
on. Like,
things, some people should stay on the ground, and I think it's for me to stay on the
okay,
ground.
that's interesting. Before we move on, as Flight Wings Aviation, we always have a treat for our viewers, and it always comes in a question, and whoever answers the question at the end of the show gets a promo code to our online courses for free. So we're cheerful givers. We believe that we also have to give back. So, and thanking you for giving us an opportunity to spend time with you, because like when you're watching, you're also giving us your time. So today's question goes by before we move on. Today's question is, what's the name of the aircraft developed by Bob Bombardla Aerospace
Bombardier.
Bombardier
Yeah.
Aerospace, but is now part of the Airbus family? What's the name of the aircraft developed by Bombardier Aerospace, but it's now part of the Airbus family? The answer will be given at the very end of the show. But if you want to answer it, feel free. I will basically be checking in the comment section. So whoever answers it first gets the promo code. So Let the games begin. Drum roll.
Can I
Thank you.
answer as well?
Yes, you can speak.
No, I
Oh,
was
you
asking.
can enter.
Question.
No, 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 no.
It's not for
You,
you.
you obviously know this. You obviously know this.
I
All
could
right,
tell
fair
by
enough.
his face that he already knows. He was so excited, like, I know this. I
Yeah,
know.
but you can text. But you can text one of your relatives if you can. If you can with
Nah,
the answer, because
I
most
think I'll
definitely.
leave it for the time around.
Yeah, awesome. Because you can benefit from all of this. And I just want to
Yeah.
take this opportunity also to recognize people in our comment section that basically like I can see that people are really engaging right now. Thank you so much. I might not be able to mention all of you guys, but I definitely will give a shout out as the show goes on. But obviously, the engagement will be seen on the screen. We definitely love engagement. Thank you so much. And also, if you have questions for Captain Eleazar, feel free. And I think the answer is already there. Oh my days, someone has
It's
already answered the question
really.
in the comment section. And he
I
is
hope
one.
it's one of my watches.
He is one. But obviously, I will reveal this at the very end. So
Okay.
we're moving into our discussion today. So why did you become a pilot? Like why? Like no, wait a minute. You say something about circumstances, right? And
Yes.
um, and then maybe my question would be, um, what circumstances were there before you thought about being a pilot? Like like what drastically changed, and then it shaped you into wanting to become a pilot.
Okay. So the circumstances part was for how I ended up working at Three Bars Express and so forth. Why I became a pilot is a totally different story. I happen to have, I'll call it a blessing in disguise, that during my third year of primary school, I was about eight, 8 years old. I went and learned at Conway College. Now, Conway College was a school that was less than 1 nautical mile from an airfield, which was Charles Prince Airfield. So you literally would have aircraft overflying you whilst you're in class. Now, this was something quite strange or rather interesting, I'd say, for any child or any 8 year old. And I say to myself, I want to be in those aircraft one of those days. So as I started just continuing with my education and growing, I developed more and more interest in aeronautics, and the curiosity in me just would not let me go. And it called me into the cockpit, and before I knew it, I had my wings on.
So
Wow.
you would say like that's your inspiration as well, if somebody asked you.
Definitely, without a fail, I was inspired. It goes beyond imagination, how much it can fuel a child, and shaping their dreams, you know. At first, it sounds like it's noisy. The teachers definitely hated it because they're trying to teach a principle, and the next thing you hear, there's a loud thing going across. But it was definitely fascinating for us.
Okay.
Awesome. On that line of thought as well, like if you're not gonna be a pilot, what was he gonna be? I'm just curious. Like, if it wasn't gonna be aviation, what was he gonna be? You don't need to like dwell on it, but just slightly. I'm just curious. Like, these are personal
Okay,
questions before we move into work kind of
Work
serious
related.
related questions. Yeah.
okay. So, um, I would say, sorry, can you hear me? Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Yes,
Just
we
back
can.
back on mine now. If I wasn't going to be a pilot, there's a saying that goes that keep it in the family. I'd definitely be an aeronautical engineer by now.
Oh. So
Air-
aviation, still aviation. If not a
Definitely.
pilot, then at least an aeronautical engineer. That's nice.
Correct. My veins carry jet fuel, nothing else.
Wow. Wow. I'm so jealous of your brains right now.
Thank
But as we transition to more rocket science questions, or maybe they're
you.
not, but then to you, but then I feel like to our viewers, some of us who have less knowledge to aviation. According to you, what do you think is the most difficult thing about being a commercial pilot?
Okay. I'll take this right from the beginning, which is when you qualify as a commercial pilot and are given your wings. That is the day that you start facing difficulties in your journey as a commercial pilot. The first difficult thing you're going to face is finding that first job, which is key. Because as you can imagine, whilst flight schools are producing more and more um, students, or rather commercial pilots, the production line is not going as fast at Boeing or at Bombardier like we were talking about earlier. So you're entering a zone where you're going to have to fight for a job. And I must say, this is where life starts getting tricky. You have to decide which state are you going to work in. You obviously will have studied in a certain country. If it's outside of your home country, now you want to look and see, am I going to return home? What are the implications of such a decision? Okay, you will definitely face some headwinds if you studied abroad, but I'd say this is where you face most challenges as a commercial pilot. Once you get into the system and you're actually working, it's not just a matter of just building your hours to get to a certain stage that you want to be at. If I were to say something very, very difficult at that stage, I'd say it would be the early morning flights. No one likes waking up at 4 a.m., but it comes with the job.
Awesome.
Okay. Now that Isaac has asked you about the difficult parts, I want to know what's the favorite thing. What do you like about being like a commercial? What's your favorite thing?
Okay, thank you. On the, I think, though they are exaggerated a bit, there are some perks to being a pilot, and I think everyone loves those. To mention just one very,
Give us the
very
perks.
common
Give
one,
us the perks. Tell us
you
the
know,
perks.
as a pilot, you get to each and every day you get to wake up and you get to see the sun. It doesn't matter what it looks like outside. It may be raining cats and dogs outside, but as a pilot, you're going to climb and get above that and still get to see the beautiful sunshine and dance with the clouds and so forth. And so the views are worth taking. If it's not the clouds, peradventure you have a clear day. You get to see the scenery. I happen to have trained at a coastal city where I was able to see the ocean, the mountains, and everything. That's just one thing that comes with flying that you never get. That never gets old. You can ask a senior captain in their 50s or 60s, they'll tell you this one thing remains true. Then obviously, my uncle always cautioned me against this one. He says, make sure you're in it to win it, not just for the glam. There's a lot of glam that comes with being a pilot, recognition and so forth, social status and all that. But these are, of course, the negligible but bits and pieces. The absolute pleasure for any pilot is the views that come with the job.
Wow. Wow. The
Wow.
the the glitz, the glamour, all of those things. And yeah. So
Mm.
um so apart from all of that, like what's your least favorite thing about your job, you know? Like I know there are perks and everything, but then I'm like, can it be so too positive? What's the least thing that you do? What are those list things that you don't like about your job? Or not
Okay,
dislike, but then maybe not you don't prefer them or
okay. I would say that no one, as I mentioned earlier, waking up very early in the morning. I remember on my last job that I worked at, I had to wake up at 3:30 in the morning to go to the airport. And this was something that I think no one would enjoy, Um, from one of our subjects that we study, which is called human performance, around 4 a.m. is when the body is weakest. But you find that's the time you have to wake up, beat the traffic, and be able to be at the airport by 6 a.m. A lot of times you will have 6 a.m. departures. And I think waking up early is a deal breaker for a lot of people. Or maybe it's a personal one, since I do love my sleep that much. But apart from that, in the beginning, when you start flying, there's a lot of stress that comes with the job. You're not sure if you're able to execute what's expected of you, and there's pressure buildup. You're not very certain of your capabilities, and I think that's a stressful phase as a pilot where you're constantly anxious. You're waiting for the other foot to drop. If your flight is going on well, you're wondering when is the other foot going to drop. And I think that keeping that adrenaline going certainly can be challenging. But as time goes on, you tend to relax in the cockpit. It becomes your second home, and if you're not careful, you may just fall asleep in there.
But then, just a follow-up question. Just a follow-up question. Do you have specific drills that deal with certain things like avoiding you guys to from suffering from things like fatigue and inadequate rest and all of these things? Like it's quite important because I'm not saying that driving a car is like simpler than whatever, but then I feel like there's certain precautions that are taken more, or you guys are kind of like treated a bit more. There's more responsibility when it comes to flying. And do you have those kind of drills? Do they make sure that you sleep enough? Like, what do they do to make sure that you are healthy and enough, like medically, and
Okay,
healthy
so we
wise?
have
Yeah.
different measures that we have in place. The very first one that we have in place is coffee. They train you, take coffee as much as you can. This you will start from your school days. You will have coffee breaks in between lectures. And what you don't realize is slowly you're being trained into a culture of coffee dependence. Before you know it, if you have an early morning flight, you're making sure you have that cup of coffee. I'm sure you've seen even in the movies or something. I don't know how many of you watched Flight, but Denzel Washington was holding a cup of coffee as he was going into the
Of
cockpit.
course.
It's not just dramatic, but it is what it is. It's real like that. You need to, if you don't want to, you can stay away off the coffee, but it
Yeah, I
definitely
don't take
helps.
coffee, by the way. I just want to put it out there. So that means I'm disqualified for being a pilot. I'm like, my dream has been shattered.
Well, not quite. It's not mandatory. It's purely optional. By the time you graduate, it's a habit. If you can stop, well, good for you. Some of us can't. Now, the second thing is what we have what we call rest periods, which you must abide by. It's you have to make sure you get at least 7.5 to 8 hours of sleep before your flight. And should we find that, okay, you asked what measures do they have? Certain airlines, particularly in the Middle East, make sure they enforce this with an iron fist. You'll find that you'll be staying in cluster homes, or this is what I've heard from the senior training captains that told us, that you'll be staying in cluster homes where you sign in and sign out, going your movements as you leave the premises where you stay, and as you're coming back in, they keep record of what time you came in. Now, this system was adopted in the school I did my training at 43 years, where if you stay on campus and you're going out, they'll check your name if you come out, if you come back in after a certain time, after 10 p.m. I think. They'll check your name down, and in the morning, when you're supposed to be going out to fly at 6 a.m., you have a list of everyone who came in after 10 p.m. And if you came in after 10, then you're not flying. Simple as that, and that's a punishable offense. So there are guidelines that they have. Of course, these are recommendations, but should you want to step out of the recommendation, then we have a serious problem, and they will not allow you to just fly whilst you're unsafe.
Interesting.
Okay. So moving on towards a bit professional questions, I want to ask, what factors do you consider to ensure the safety on flights? If you have an experience to share or something like that.
Okay, thank you. So a thorough pre-flight inspection always helps when you're going for a flight. What do I mean by a pre-flight inspection? Much different from your car. If your car breaks down whilst you're on the road, you're going to pull over, open the bonnet, and check what's happening with your engine. Now, this can't be the case with the airplane. Something goes wrong, you're going down. So you want to make sure you do that inspection before the flight, okay? And you want to do it every single time. You don't know when the airplane is going to break down. So just make sure that you inspect aircraft thoroughly. We're saying everything. Check the tires, check the fuel, check the oil, check everything. Make sure that everything is working before you jump in. Why? so that when things go south and you're in the air, you know that you're flying a solid machine, and they're then able to uh, try and maneuver it back to the ground. An experience, unfortunately, that I have was an unpleasant one, where I took off one day, I think 3 or so years ago. I took off in the morning flying Cessna 172. I flew to a destination, I did a thorough pre-flight, and I returned to my base where I changed aircraft and hopped into another aircraft, a Sling this time. Now I was one running behind time, and at the same time, just thinking that I already checked the aircraft before, it's still good to fly. I hopped into another without checking it. Now we took off as per normal, and just as we're passing the, okay, I'm trying not to be technical with this one, but as we're
Go
passing the
on, go on.
CTR, which is about 10-kilometer mark from the airport, my fuel gauge failed. It started
Oh.
reading 0. Now, at this point, I started trembling. Like, okay, so part of the pre-flight is checking, physically opening the fuel tank to see if there's fuel in there. I hadn't done that. Now, if the fuel gauge is telling me I have 0 liters, rather close to 0, it said I have 5 liters left. And I wasn't sure, is it accurate? Is it not? This was very, very alarming. I immediately turned back. I told Tower we were coming back to land, and I wasn't quite sure whether or not it was working. But as per regulation, if you're running out of fuel, you must declare an emergency. You're supposed to get on that radio, declare Mayday, Mayday, Mayday.
Of
But
course.
I thought that was a bit too dramatic, since I was pretty sure I had some fuel. So I just continued to the airport. I landed the aircraft, and interesting part was Tower asked us, "Why are you returning?" And because I really didn't know what to say, I just said bathroom emergency. But we came back in, landed. I opened the wings, and I saw there was plenty fuel. There was enough fuel to
Oh my
take me
God.
all the way. So I closed up the tanks. Fuel gauge is not really important. And I called back for start, and I continued with my flight. This time I knew I had my fuel. But you can see how if I had just done the pre-flight correctly in the first place, I would have continued with my flight without
Of
returning in the
course.
first place. Yeah. So that was that.
Awesome. I'm picking hints of something to do with communication also. And how is it really important in your job, communication, and especially you're talking about the tower thing and going on. Is this something specific when it comes to communication? And have you ever worked with someone who's really bad at communicating? And how
Okay.
did that go? Well, hopefully you didn't, but then yes.
So communication is key, like you mentioned. Yes, you want to make sure that you're able to articulate yourself, and communication is only good when the receiver is able to interpret what you're saying. So we have a code that we use in aviation. We have a set, let's call them standards, okay, where you speak in a certain way. And you want to try and make sure that you do not deviate from that standard at any given point. Now, have I worked with someone who is bad at communicating?
You might not
Again,
say names,
I'd
it's
say
fine. I don't want to get you in trouble.
I'd have to very shock you on that one. Hey, it takes two to tango. So if someone is a bad communicator, then definitely you're playing a part in that, because we have courses that train you to articulate correctly. We have CRM, which is crew resource management. We have multi-crew coordination, MCC, and all these are just trying to get you that level of communication where you're able to hear and work together as a team with your teammates. You are not good in a cockpit as a solo player. Okay, so you want to make sure that you're good working with the other person. I have flown with people, and I felt like we weren't agreeing on certain things. We can't throw fists in the cockpit. It
Of
doesn't help
course.
anyone. So
And
usually,
that,
what I
did that
do
happen
is
before? Just
not in my cockpit. I want to try and avoid that. I seriously once disagreed with someone on a life and death matter where I
Oh,
felt I was correct. But I said, okay, let's have it your way. Okay. We flew to a destination, and we needed to there's something called search and rescue, and we were going to an airfield that was not a controlled airfield. So you need to cancel search and rescue while she's still in the air. And this guy was trying to cancel search and rescue by contacting the relevant tower. Now, he was not able to reach them in the air. Now, alternatively, you can land and call them on your mobile and let them know that you're on the ground safe. Now, we're in the air, we've reached our destination, we're failing to establish contact with the approach, and this guy decides, let's keep circling until we're able to establish contact with them. In my mind, I'm thinking we're burning off fuel here. If we're going to keep on circling around this place, sooner or later we are going to run out of fuel. And
I feel like you're a petrol head. You've mentioned fuel a lot. I feel like you're a petrol head, but go on.
My mind revolves around fuel.
Fuel. I'm like, I choose Zimbabwe. Okay, but let's go on.
Definitely a Zimbo thing, bro. And so we're there, we're circling. We circled for 30 minutes before he eventually managed.
Even I understand. Even I am like 30 minutes though. Yeah.
And my idea was let's land and call them, but you realize you can't exactly start fighting in the aircraft. So I went along with his idea. I said, okay, so since we can't get them here, let's fly a bit closer to wherever the tower is, and maybe we'll get better luck at contacting them. We flew towards there, told them that we had our airfield in sight, and we're canceling search and rescue. Then we came back and landed. So work with the other player. They're not necessarily wrong. There are no rights or wrongs in this industry, but they're different opinions. Okay, so work together. Also, we have chain of command. Unless it is very, very important or critical to your survival, do not challenge the chain of command. I had more experience than the other guy on that flight, but he was the captain. So follow the captain's lead, and you should have less problems.
Wow.
Makes sense.
Follow the captain's lead.
So, as Isaac said, and you said as well, that communication is key, right? Sometimes as a pilot, you might have to make like difficult decisions. Do you remember the last time you had to do something like that while you were in the cockpit?
Difficult decisions all the time. I think my most difficult decision that I had to make was, I think 4 years ago, I flew to an airfield called Beaufort West. This was approximately 800 to 1,000 kilometers from my home base. Now, whilst I was there, I only realized once I landed that my alternator had failed. That means that the generator that charges the battery was no longer doing so. So I'd actually eaten up into my battery's lifespan. Coming back home, we managed to get the aircraft on by hook or crook. Okay. Still not knowing if the alternator was working. Now, we had two choices. One, we had called the home base, by the way, and they said, you're about 800 kilometers out. We can get a technician on a bus now, and they'll arrive there sometime tomorrow. So you have to spend the night. On one hand,
I think he's having a technical issue again.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I was saying we had reached out to our home base, and they said they can send a mechanic, but they'll only arrive in the next morning. So on one hand, we either were to spend the night out in the bush, or we had to fly the aircraft as it was. Okay, so we, with the help of some locals, we got the aircraft started, and we took off. We didn't know whether or not the alternator was working, and we were airborne. We were eating up the battery, and it's not meant to last for so long. We climbed out, and we ran a risk of losing radios, which is very important for you to communicate with tower, and some other flight instruments such as GPS. Of course, we had a map with us, but this would not suffice. We continued the flight anyway, but it was a really difficult, and we made it safely. I'm still here, evidently. But
thank God for that.
Indeed.
Thank God for that, that you're with us here.
It was a difficult decision in that, on one hand, you're being asked to sleep somewhere, you don't have money on you, you go out, you expecting to come back. From then on, I learned always carry a small bag with you, even if you think you're coming back to base, carry a small bag, a little bit of some money won't hurt. And yeah, but on that day, flying an aircraft without, I can't equate it to something. It would be like taking off with an aircraft without fuel gauge in a car, and you can see the light.
Great fuel
Again,
again.
the fuel again.
Yeah, call me Mr. Fuel, but yeah, that's just me. I'm thinking, okay. In fact, I remember now coming back on this flight with my friend and co-pilot. We said, let's climb high, very, very high, so that if this engine quits on us, we have enough time to strategize and pick a field to land somewhere. Maybe someone's maize field or something. But we really weren't sure if this engine was going to hold. But yeah, we were surprised, and of course, we learned from our experiences, and we're here today.
Awesome. So, whilst we're still on the issue of safety and making difficult decisions, I'm just gonna ask you a quick question. Have you ever watched the movie Sally?
Of
Definitely.
course.
Awesome,
Of
awesome,
course.
awesome, awesome. Michelle, did you watch it before? Or I told you about it?
It's an aviation movie. Come on.
Be- Because some people haven't watched it, and then I'm like, oh, how are you doing aviation and you haven't watched it? But then it just reminded me of that as well. And like what happens to your confidence, like, you're flying in the air. Is there a point where there's a point where you're scared, or like how do you deal with that? Like how do you get your confidence to always be on point? Because this is like an anomaly, not everybody, we just don't fly for just flying,
Of course.
and then there are risks to that. Does that even okay to you? Like how's your confidence like, and how do you deal with it each and every single
Mm.
time?
Well, first things first, there's no place for fear in the cockpit. We are trained. I don't want to say soldiers, but we're very close to that. We've been trained. I've been a pilot for about 6 years now, and I've been trained, or I've simulated a crash at least 100 times. So even though I haven't had my first real crash, I've already done a couple hundreds of. Now, that means that if an engine quits at any given point, I'm not going to panic. I'm going to tap into my training, say, okay, as trained before, let us stick to A, B, C, D, and we should be able to survive this. As demonstrated in the movie, like you correctly said, Sally. I like that one because it's a bit realistic and closer home. In that case study, you had the aircraft, an Airbus A320, ingesting a bird into both engines, and immediately they shut down. Now, what Captain Sally then went on to do was choose to land the plane on water. I only know of one guy who did that, and it was Jesus. He walked on water. No one else that I know of pulled off something like that. So there he is setting up his mind, and he's saying, we're going to land on water. The co pilot must have thought, this guy is crazy, but it comes with the training. You've trained for such a scenario, and you've told yourself that you can survive this, and survive it you will. It is very unfortunate that in some situations the passengers and crew do not make it, but ideally speaking, any and all situations that find you in the air, you should be equipped to deal with them. And yeah, no panic at all, zero panic.
It's kind of like, I mean, the training must be so difficult for you to, like, make up your mind and train it like that. That, I mean, even after being like in a simulation and you're saying you've gone through like hundred of accidents, but like actually being up there is, of course, completely different. Y- Being there is so difficult. Like you said, the fuel gauge thing you told about your experience, like suddenly, no matter how many simulations you might have been, but it's suddenly new for you, because simulation is still simulation, but you actually being in that situation and trying to calm yourself down when you know the worst can happen. It's
Definitely. You rightly put it that so when you simulate, there's no adrenaline in you, You know that
yeah,
okay, when we need to recover, we will recover. But in the real life situation, you can expect your blood to be pumping, heart racing, and
of
eyes
course.
sharp. You're looking. This time you're looking for real, not simulating. You're looking. If something happens, where am I landing? Am I landing on those trees? Exactly am I going to put it down? And it's a scary thing. But at the same time, training, I think I mentioned training once, but it's more of a recurring thing. Every year, and for some pilots, every 6 months, you have to go back and retrain emergencies. So every 6 months to a year, your pilot is taught on any and all eventualities. In my last uh, recurrence training flight, I had an electrical fire on board and I had to deal with that. Simulated, of course, but if I didn't have an electrical fire anytime, I'm more equipped to deal with
Okay, so like of course, like for example, I wanna ask, and this is like for like the aviators who also plan on becoming pilots someday. I wanna ask that, for example, like let's take your example, the fuel gauge one, right? I mean,
it.
you went through it, you handled it, and everything. How do you deal with it when you come back? I mean, when you come back home, you must think like, oh my God, that just happened with me. So how do you deal with that stress, that when the adrenaline is gone down, that's when when you come back home, you might realize like, okay, that just happened with me right now. How do you deal with that, the after effect of the
Okay,
incident?
okay. Um, I would say that okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. So I was saying, after I realized that fuel, I still went on to continue with my flight. Admittedly, my initial
Yeah.
flight plan was to the west. This time when I took off, I went to the east. Purely coincidental, but uh, I would say that I wasn't quite stressed, or there's really no trauma that comes from it.
So there?
No, I
Okay,
think. Yes,
Yeah,
you
it's
so
do.
back.
sorry, I think my network is acting up there. So as I
It's
was
okay.
saying, that yeah, there's really no anxiety that comes from it, but there are other external stress factors. We do have exams that we have to write, and the pass mark is 75%. I myself failed a couple of them, several, well, not several, but a couple of times. And for a
Are they
lot of
reoccurring
pilots,
exams?
Thank you for telling that, for telling that exams are difficult, and for people to know that, okay, it's okay, sometimes it happens, but thank you for
yeah,
telling
Are
that.
they are they
seeing
reoccurring
as
exams, by the way?
no, the written exams are a once-off thing, but they are rigorous. That I can assure you. One particular exam that gave me headaches was flight planning. You find and aviation exams are multiple choice, so you can get into an
Yes.
exam that asks you what is the answer: 75%, 76%, 77, or 78. And if the answer is 76, and you put um, if the answer is 76 and you put what? 77, it's wrong. Just like that. So I really struggled with those. And you can get stressed. But
Of
the secret
course.
is to just maintain composure. I'm a man of faith. And when I find myself down, I resort to prayer. It really helps me pull through. But also focusing on what's ahead. Remain hopeful of a brighter end, and you should do just fine.
Wow,
Awesome. And
that's
it's
really
like
nice.
it's like a no build into the next section I'm about to suggest, like inspire people now. What is it that you can say to young people, young boys, young girls who are thinking about becoming pilots and starting training, and one thing that's unique, and I think we're going to discuss it about when we're talking about your book for a little bit, like your age, your age is quite like something else. When I was reading the book, I'm like, okay, I wish most people could definitely think about stuff when they're quite younger because it's more, man. You sound like you have a long way ahead of you. Like you have a long way ahead of you. Like some people will talk about how they qualified and then they're like 40s, and I'm thinking, yeah, but then when I'm listening to you, I'm seeing a brighter, bigger future. Like I'm seeing something else. So um, kind of take us through how one person will be thinking about it, especially when you're really young. Like
Mhm.
what can you say to them? Like what can you say to your younger self? Because I know you did it when you're younger. Like when you to your younger self.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Like you stated, I started flying when I was 17 years old. Um, I had not even gotten my driver's license at that time, but
Whoa, that's a
at some
that's a,
point,
that's a drop. Wow. You did it like
at-
forget this road thing, like nah, I'm just gonna like I'm like the bigger things, like life is
explain
like
it.
this, I am like this.
There we go. My own mom wouldn't even let me drive her car, but the school let me fly a plane. So you're looking at
I'm like,
that's
I'm like, it's all right.
Like, okay, mom, I don't want your car.
yeah.
I'm gonna go fly a plane now. It's okay. It's okay.
There you have it. But one thing that I almost did, I was very much tempted to drop out of school. Okay, sorry, I'd lost you there for a bit. I was saying that that's not something I'd recommend for everyone. Dropping out of school, yes, you can get into aviation with just O levels, but like I mentioned earlier, the job market is stiff. There's competition left, right, and center, and any added advantage you can have will put you a cut above the rest. So thankfully, I managed to stay in school, finish that up. Now, what would I encourage young boys and girls thinking of pursuing a career in aviation? Let's first address the elephant in the room. Aviation right now is suffering hits left, right, and center, and we're under immense pressure. However, there's never been a better time to train. Um, I'd say to any young guy or girl out there, get enrolled and start your training now. Hypothetically speaking, if all things go well, you should be done by end of 2022. And IATA board estimates that by 2023 we're going to see a global pilot shortage. Okay, and we're going to see a huge boom, a huge Okay, I'm back with you guys again. I was saying that more and more people are shifting towards flying commercial. When my eldest brother was going to school, he used to take the bus. Okay, but as time went on, as we're progressing, uh, I think I'd say more and more people are moving into the middle economy class. Okay, where we're having more people affording air travel. That creates global increase in demand. So you find that where he used to take a bus, I now take a plane, not as a pilot, but as a passenger. You see? So there's an increase in demand. I'm sure the whole panel here has been on a flight, and many more people are flying. So that means that passenger traffic is going up. With that comes a demand for pilots. So there's never been a better time to train. Do not fear, do not look around at what's happening with the world right now. This is just a phase. It's going to pass away sooner than you think. We're already seeing vaccines being rolled out. The fact the industry is set to bounce back. So there's never been a better time to start your training. However, there's never been a worse or more difficult time to raise funding. Okay, money is scarce as we're seeing economic collapse left, right, and center. We do have organizations that can fill the gap and help you out. One such organization would be Women in Aviation International, which is involved in giving out scholarships to students across the world and helping pilots achieve their dreams. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. So, Michelle, your final question.
Yes, I think he already answered it. I wanted to ask about the COVID-19 future, what the
Oh yes,
aviation
yeah, yeah.
industry, but he already answered. That's why I didn't bother asking him, because he already said that it's a good time and it's a bad time. It has its benefits and it has its drawbacks. So it's good. We are still, it'll be fine. As you said, I really like what you said, that it's a phase, and phases they go. So
True.
thank you
Awesome.
for that.
Um, thank you so much. And we're about to wrap up the show. And this is the point that I was really waiting for because I went through the book. So I have interesting things, I actually jotted things down. And
Okay.
yeah. So the few minutes that we have, we're just gonna go through the book, Like I feel like it's really interesting. And I'm quite older now. I would have loved to act. I would have loved to act you, but then I'm older now. But then I'm trying to forge myself with the acting career because I feel like
Uh,
I was reading a movie. So
ah,
so let's go through moments of your book. Like I just jotted things down. I think a few points, and then I'm just gonna mention them, and then you can briefly like give us like an intel of what was going on through your mind and everything. First
okay.
one, uh, when this idea culminated,
Mm.
first hurdle was finance. What was going through your mind when the sponsorship thing was failing, because you speak about how you moved around, looking for sponsorship. Take me through that part.
First things first, thank you very much for reading the book. I had no idea you'd read it. But I like to quote the great Nelson Mandela, who said that it always seems impossible until it is achieved.
Until it's done.
Exactly. I didn't see it happening. I had this huge cost estimate from my desired flight school of about 50,000 US dollars. And seeing as my father was a civil servant, policeman for that matter, and my mother was a retired teacher, I was just another ordinary kid who had a dream. And it seemed very much impossible. But I believed I had a dream. Okay, I would stop at nothing to see it happen. I would write letters left, right, and center, trying to solicitate funds to achieve my dream. A lot of people were doubting, and they would have several opinions. Hey, you're a smart guy. Why don't you venture into medicine? Become a doctor and so forth. But one thing I can tell the young people is that if you venture into a career without passion, you're setting yourself up for disappointment because the happy doctor that you know of loves their job. If you just step into something for the money, you may find yourself quite stressed and close to depression, I'd say. So I just kept on. I had the dream, I had the vision, and I just kept on pressing. I spent a total of 6 months looking for funding to get me started on my training. And you know what they say, you only have to get lucky once. So keep pushing, keep pushing. One thing will give it a certain point.
Awesome. Let's jump into you getting airsick. And the reason why I'm putting this through because there's a part where you doubted yourself because you said, "Am I meant for this?" And then your instructor gave you some wise nuggets. Take me through that part where you were questioning your
Yeah, right.
passion. Like, is this for
Uh,
me? Or
Let me give some background to that. So my third or fourth flight, I think we were doing turning and I got airsick. Now I don't know if anyone has ever gotten airsick from our viewers, but it's a very terrible feeling. Worse if you're in a very small aircraft. That's much, much more intense. So I immediately got headaches. My tummy felt funny and I felt like throwing up. And I was the one flying. Once that started, my instructor took over control and was flying us back home. And as we're flying back, that's when it started hitting me that what if I thought that getting airsick is like a condition, like I always get airsick. So I thought, if I can't fly, then what am I going to do? I don't exactly want to go to university and do all these funny courses, accounting, no offense,
What?
or anything.
People offended there, but I get what you mean, man.
You know, like, no, what am I going to do? Farming. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. So that's when I just saw, I found tears running through my eyes. But my instructor encouraged me. I'm not sure, like I said in the book, whether or not it was a real fiction that he said that he also once got sick during his early flights, but it definitely helped. I was like, oh, okay. So if he got sick and he now has thousands of hours, then definitely I'll also reach 1,000 hours. And by the time we landed, we were best buddies.
Yeah,
Wow,
awesome.
that's really
And
nice.
your solo first experience, your solo flight. You were ecstatic, I could feel it from the book. Like you were ecstatic. Your first solo flight.
Okay, so first solo is a big milestone for every pilot. Okay, so here you are, you're 17 years old. Your peers are probably in high school somewhere drafting up notes, and you're being given a whole aircraft to fly. You know, I words cannot begin to express the joy that I felt. As my testing officer was a very old man in his 70s or 80s. His name was Ted Bain, and I looked at this old man, and as he said, "Okay, go." I thought to myself, me, go where, and he's like, go take off, go do your thing. And I got there um, and I took off with the aircraft. So I don't know if our viewers know this, but the takeoff is the easy part. So I got into the air. It's just like jumping off a cliff when you're going for bungee jumping. So I jumped into the air and we were airborne. The whole time I was singing as we are circling around the area of the airport. And then I had to come back and land. Here came the tricky part. Then I started thinking to myself, wait, where's my instructor? And I realized he's not there. There's no one there to guide you. It's now up to you, your judgment, your decision. Are you too high? Are you too low? Are you off to the left? Are you off to the right? It was entirely up to me. And I just guided myself down, landed the aircraft, and the celebration. They speak of celebrations of when people get to heaven. I don't think it's anywhere near what I experienced after this flight. My friends waiting for me, my instructor, they carried me, they were cheering on, and they carried me as part of the ritual, solo ritual. They carried me to the swimming pool and they threw me in there. It was quite a moment for me, I must say.
Wow.
Wow. Awesome.
Mm.
And then the few negative things in the book.
Yeah.
The annoying instructor.
Okay. Okay. What would you like on that one?
The fact that it was so bad, and then you ended up passing, right? And then you take me also when he like he pranked you, like when you pranked you again, like, and then he was joking that sincerely you have passed. Like, take me through those experiences
Oh,
where you
right.
first met him, and then
Okay.
he was like, yeah.
So I thought this guy was really mean towards me. No lies. He was really hard on me. But I realized that I thank him today more than ever. Okay. I was a young kid who was stepping into the big boy league. Okay. And I was very much soft. I needed affirmations. I'd ask, can I do this? Can I do that? And they say to me, you can never be a captain with the way you are. Okay. We need to toughen you up. So he started hitting me hard. He would shout at me and expect me to respond. It's building character. Now I find that it sort of helped me because now I then toughened up. I can back myself up. If you're saying something and I don't necessarily agree with it, I will let you know on the spot. I don't care how old you are, how many more bars
Oh
than
my
me you
goodness, they
have.
roasted you.
Oh
They aced you well.
you know, he made sure of that. Like he mentioned that he said on my final private pilot license test, he said to me, "You can't fly. You don't know what you're doing. You don't belong in the cockpit." I kept
Oh.
I like
quiet.
your reaction though. I like your reaction though. I like your reaction though. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am like spoiling the book, but I like your reaction because there's a part where you kept quiet. Like silence is golden. You just kept quiet
Yeah.
and
You can't exactly. I was boiling inside. I can't
The
fly.
silences, I will show you. Don't worry. I don't have to say right now. I
You
will show
know,
you.
exactly. And I was just quiet there. And then he said, "Nah, I'm just messing with you. You actually fly just fine. Congratulations, you're a private pilot." And that is how I got my first 2 bars.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like I have so many questions, but I would narrow them like only for like maybe two. And then maybe if I'm lucky enough, like I can actually have a decent chat with you because I have so much stuff to talk about the book. But then there's a part where it's a bit gloomy when you lost your father in the midst of all of this greatness happening and everything. And also you experiencing an off season where you had this difficult I think it's a course, it's something to do with navigation, and it got you questioning, you were struggling, you were getting support from your friends and everything. Like just briefly take us through that part where how you're handling you losing your number one hero, and then
Mhm.
also struggling in the midst of your passion,
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Um, I think about 2 to 3 months into my training, like you stated, my father fell ill, and I had to return home. I was there for a couple of weeks, and then I still had to go back to school and complete my private pilot license. And I thought that it would be operations normal. I don't know if that means that's clear enough to you guys that ops normal usually means for aviators that everything is okay.
Yeah.
So I went back to school and I thought that I was, before this, I was the sharpest thing you can have in the air. Don't mean to brag, but it simply was what it was.
it's not
And
bragging
I
if
thought,
it's true, by the way. I'll give you this one. It is not bragging if it's true. Say it, it's fine.
right, there you have it. So I was the sharpest thing in the air. And so it came as a shock, to my instructor that this very young, bright mind is now failing to grasp basic principles. So I now knew how to maneuver the aircraft. I knew how to pretty much control it in any dimension. But now he was trying to teach me how to move from point A to point B. Because it's of no use to us if you can maneuver the aircraft, but if you can't move it, say, from Riyadh to Dubai. So now that's what he was trying to teach me, and I was failing terribly. Um, and that's where my friends came in. They threw me a surprise birthday party for my 18th. Shout out to all of them. Thank you very
Man
much.
was so young. Man was so young. No, no, no. I'm jealous. I'm like, man was so
Yeah.
young. No.
Yeah. And that's when one of my friends came and spoke to me on behalf of my instructor, apparently. And she gave me some advice. She said, ease off on the stress, leave it on the ground, and you should do better in the air. I took that advice, and I think it helped because I soon managed to grasp navigation, and I was ready for my test. I tested and I returned back home. Unfortunately, when I then completed my training, I called home and I spoke to my parents, notified them that I had completed and was returning home. Like you mentioned, my number one hero is very proud. But unfortunately, before I could get back home, 2 days after my test, he passed on. So I actually had to return home to a funeral instead of a celebration.
Yeah. So sorry
That
about
was that
that.
was that
So
was very
sorry.
that was very sad. But
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm glad the way you rose up and the support you got from your friends, especially. For me, that was very moving. Like a support structure you had for you. It was very important, and it reminds me as a person who chases my passion as well. Like having a very good team is something that is very essential. And
True.
lastly, just take us through maybe the last part where you are done, but then now you have to complete, and then things like the scholarship goal comes through, and certain things like that. Like your life was now shaping up, and then there's a part where you also describe how there's a certain thing, I can't remember it in terms, but then it's something to do with instrument or something that you did first, but then you were supposed to have a couple of flights before you had that, but somehow you were fortunate enough to do it before. And then obviously I think that played a huge role in your motivation and gearing through and towards your success.
Okay. Right. So, as I mentioned earlier, I now had my private pilot license. I had 2 bars on me, and I was working towards getting my third bar. However, I'd lost my sponsorship as I mentioned, my father had passed away, and it really was a trying time to navigate through getting that third bar financially. Admittedly, it is very costly, much more costly than the first two bars. So, in the middle of all that chaos, I ran out of money, and that's when I applied for a scholarship from Women in Aviation International, particularly the Keep Flying Scholarship, and I was awarded it in 2018. Now, when the money came through, it was for an instrument rating. And basically, an instrument rating is what qualifies you as a commercial pilot. Okay. And all you need to then become a commercial pilot, or rather to get that third bar, is build up certain experience by yourself, flying by yourself, building up experience, and then you do your instrument rating, you make your commercial pilot. Now, I didn't have the funds to build that experience in the air, flying those hours. So I got the scholarship, but I was running low on the experience part. So I did something unconventional. Okay. I went to the scholarship board and to the school and I said, I will do my instrument rating, even though I'm not going to get a commercial license. So I'll do the instrument rating, remain a private pilot, but with with an instrument rating. And they approved. Initially, I went and I spoke to the chief instructor. He said, that's madness. Why would you do a commercial pilot test only to remain a private pilot? I remember my instructor who actually taught me the instrument flying, he said to me, that's like going to get a driver's license only for you to end up riding a bicycle. This is what he said to me. But then, yeah, that's exactly what I did. So I went and I got that instrument rating. So I did the instrument rating test and I remained a private pilot. To me, that was okay. I was one step closer to the dream. So after I got my instrument rating, I kept on building my experience. And once I had all the experience I needed, then I did my test again and got my commercial pilot license. So in essence, I did the commercial pilot test twice.
Wow.
Okay.
So there we have it, Captain Eliza. I'm very honored. Today was an interesting. Today was an interesting episode because we still maintained our viewers. We didn't even double. Usually we do 30 minutes, but such information couldn't be wrapped in 13 minutes. You deserved an hour. I wish if I had the guarantee of my viewers to take it to 2, it would have been great. But then I know our millennials might not be able to focus until until further and so forth. But I want to say thank you for being an inspiration as well. And people asking in the comment section, where can they find the book? People asking people want to buy it, and where can they find the book?
Okay, so the book is available online. It's on smashwords.com. You can also order on Facebook. On our Facebook page, we have 3 Bars Express, 3 the number, and Bars Express in words. Alternatively, they can get it from Amazon Kindle bookstore. Those are the 3 options that we have.
Awesome. I hope I didn't spoil it so much to the people. But yeah, if we're gonna work, we'll talk later. Let's work on a movie, man. Let's work on a movie and get this done. You never know. Let's work on a movie because I feel like or rather a documentary. Because that's stuff that I like to be into. So definitely I'll hit you up and then we'll do some stuff. Let's inspire these people. And so forth.
Definitely.
So any okay, Gwen, I think I need to surrender the question that I asked in the beginning of the show. So the question was, what's the name of the aircraft developed by Bombardier Aerospace, but it is now part of the Airbus family? And the answer was given, and it's correct. And the person who answered it first, where is this person now? I'm checking the comment section. I know it's okay, and the answer is the A2220. And this was answered by Elijah Mandimika. Oh, you know him? Did you text him?
Did you text
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Okay, so he's the one. He's the one. So we'll organize sending him the
The promo
the
code.
code, the promo code. But definitely inbox us on Flight Wings Aviation on Instagram, Facebook as well, so that we organize how you're gonna receive it and so forth. Thank you so much for
Thank
answering
you
that
so
question correctly. So, yes, any final words, Captain? You want to leave us with any final words?
Okay. I'll try and make this as short as possible. Um, Firstly, in this journey of aviation to the youngsters, find a support system, find mentors that can help you walk the walk. We have different organizations such as African Leaders in Aviation, which you can follow and consult on a regular basis. It is not a one-man show, okay? And this career is a rewarding career, but it has its highs and lows. So you want to make sure that you have someone who can help you up in your low season. Um, and most importantly, if you have a dream, if you're sure that this aviation thing is for you, don't let anyone talk you out of it. It's a very rewarding career. I've had several lows, but I'll still choose them all over again. Pursue the dream, keep the dream alive, and we're here to welcome you to the cockpit when you're ready. Thank you.
Oh,
Awesome,
thank you.
Michelle.
Thank you
Any
for
any
that.
last any last takeaways, Michelle?
I just want to say thank you to Captain Els again. It was so awesome meeting you. And talking to you made me realize also, and I'm an aviation person myself, and the people who are watching are the future generation of aviation. You made us realize that, passion is everything. Dedication and passion is everything. Really, if you are passionate about aviation, that's the only way to go up in the industry. And talking to you really, really proves it that it doesn't matter what age you're what's your age and where you are, but if you're passionate and like you just said, that if aviation is for you, then just go for it. And like you said, I
Sure.
really like the fact that when you said that, uh, you know I'm so, if I'm so smart, people like, why don't you go to medicine and study medicine if you're so smart?
Yeah.
I can really, really relate to that a lot. And I would
Yeah.
definitely talk to you about this backstage, but I really relate to that. And it's true. It's true that you have to be passionate. And once aviation is for you, I think it's very difficult to go anywhere else. You're like, this is it. So thank you so much for coming today and talking to us and giving our viewers a chance to talk to you and know about you as well. Thank you so much for
Pleasure
that.
is all mine.
Awesome. I am very honored. Like I said, it was a pleasure having you. And my takeaway is basically from prior research and then meeting you, everything is just simultaneously linking. And for me, basically, I'm really touched with the flaws in the sense that the things that were not working out, but then eventually did. And from a person who also dreams very vastly, these are the things that matter the most. How you gonna fall and how you're gonna rise back. And then most of the time we're emphasizing on falling and not trying to fall, but then sometimes you need to fall so that you can rise. So what's really important is you not falling, but is you actually rising. So you know that even if you fail, you mentioned something about how you had so many exams, but you failed, which is not really a big deal because you passed. So many people are fighting not to fail, but the honest truth is you can fail. So what you need to focus on is passing, not failing,
Yes.
not trying to stop you from failing. So I'm really moved with the flaws and the fact that you're really young, and I wish you well. And I want to be to a point where, but I know this guy, and yeah, and fly business class, because there's this thing that I'm trying to. There's this thing I'm literally getting my mindset ready. Like you're gonna be a great man. You're gonna be flying business class. So if that's gonna be you driving or like flying those planes, definitely I'm gonna be in business class.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Our viewers, you were consistent. I could see the live thing going 1820, 1820 to 1820. Man, you're a famous man, and yeah, you're a humble man as well. thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you do care, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. And any your social medias, like what's your social medias where people can follow you and also follow your journey and everything.
All right, thank you. My Facebook is Eleazar Mabunda, Eleazar Mabunda. You can get it from you can get the spelling from Flight Wings Aviation's page. My Instagram is at Els the Pilot, and same applies for my Twitter. LinkedIn is Eleazar Mabunda as well, and looking forward to connecting with all you people and discussing how we can get your aviation dream started. Once again, thank you very much, Isaac and Michelle, for having me on this platform. It's been an absolute pleasure breaking bread with you. Thank you.
Thank you to
Awesome.
you as well.
All right, so with that in mind, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And from the team, Isaac and Michelle, from our guest, it is bye for now. And see you next week, same time, same place, same platform. And be blessed and take care of yourself. It is bye from now from the team. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.